everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tree Actions, the Human Forestry Podcast. And joining me, as always, is my trusted partner, Tony Tressel, Pomeroy
Hello,
PA,
everyone.
ecstatically celebrating the win of the Eagles. And
Yes, we are.
and I am not from too far away, if I'm not mistaken, is joining us on this episode is Ryan Kruljac. Hello, Ryan. How's it going?
Wayne, Tony, nice to see you guys. Going well? Yeah, joining
You
you
are in
from.
PA also, are you not?
Yeah, we're southwestern PA, so we're about 20 minutes north of Pittsburgh right now. Yeah, that's home base, head of operations. Yeah, and it's we actually got some blue skies today, and it's not below freezing, or at least not at the moment. It's been a nice winter.
So, do you think that the Steeler fans are as reticent as the Kansas City fans are today, or are they at least thankful it's in the state?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I am not much of a football fan to begin with, right? My Sundays are typically spent in the woods on two wheels and clearing the mind from the week. So
Nice.
that's what we did yesterday, and it was
Cool.
better than sitting there eating junk food.
Right,
But
right.
right. So
Fair enough. It's all
yeah,
okay. When you mentioned Pittsburgh, it just popped into my head because it's an iconic name and team that I just dawned on me. It's the same state. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and I think a lot of people wouldn't. Canadians, maybe I should speak only for myself, but Pennsylvania is a big state, and those are pretty prolific
oh yeah,
cities.
yeah. I mean, the Steelers thing is still huge. I mean, people have their Steelers Ford F-150s from the factory.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big thing. But yeah, we've been struggling for couple years now. So yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm sure we're glad to see it there. And yeah,
So, Ryan, we're not here to talk about football, and by the time this airs, it'll have been a long forgotten. Well, not long forgotten because was a pretty memorable game. But we ask everyone this one question. We ask you to go back and think to yourself,
mhm.
when was the first time that you can recall, wherever and whenever that was, where you felt that you really get a connection with either a tree or trees?
Yeah. That's a pretty easy one. I was real fortunate to kind of grow up in the woods. Um, so folks had 4 acres, but all the families around us, it seemed like we sat on 30 acres of nothing but Western Pennsylvania, basically oak forest.
Yeah.
And we had a big deck on the back of the house, and growing up, being a little kid, asking about this or that. My dad always referred to these white oaks as the great oaks, and that always stuck with me, and forever and ever. It was like, oh, the great oaks, the great oaks. So that's probably the first time that a tree meant something to me, or I knew that what the name of a tree was.
Wow.
But then beyond that, my parents were really, really into gardening and landscaping and whatnot. So that was something I kind of grew up with watching develop, but not from like an industry standpoint. Definitely more from just the people that wanted to use nature to beautify and whatnot, and they put an amazing amount of time and effort into what they were doing. So, even before thoughts of a job or a career or anything like that came about, they just kind of instilled that in my brother and I, to respect the beauty of these things and, be around them and take care of them. So yeah, I think it was a pretty natural thing kind of to end up getting into, but yeah, that's my start in tree care was definitely not, I wouldn't say it was associated with grandiose dreams of tree preservation or tree climbing or owning a business. It was, I was just a 16-year-old that was able-bodied, and it was the job in the area that paid the best. So that's, I was trying to buy a vehicle and be able to go to the movies and do this and that. So that's kind of where it all started. But
So
yeah,
your family had a genuine passion for not just trees, but the outdoors or landscape in general. But and obviously your father must have revered or respected the oaks, giving him that moniker.
oh yeah, without a doubt. When they, first uh, bought the property, they cleared what they had to, but they were maybe a little over ambitious in trying to keep every single tree. At one point, there was, looking back, and again, I was little, but they actually built a deck around maybe a 30-inch red oak that was right behind the house, and not understanding root damage and excavation and whatnot, it wasn't long until that thing turned up stone dead. And
Yeah.
yeah, and Dad was going to take that down himself, so half the deck ended up missing. Right, one of those deals, because there wasn't a whole bunch of back in the early '80s that, at least in our area, nobody was paying to have somebody come out and do that, or at least my dad wasn't. That was for damn sure. So yeah, it was definitely a big thing, and my mom as well. Every plant was precious. Every trillium that came up, every blank in here. Um, oh, help me, guys. The Jack in the Pulpit. There were some
Mhm.
of those that grew down along the stream, and the
That's funny. That's
skunk
exactly
cabbage.
that's what I thought you were trying to think of. That's what I was
Yep.
thinking of. That's
Hmm.
funny because those are kind
So,
of cool. Those things are cool.
oh heck yeah,
I've heard
and
it
it
called
was
Pope in a pulpit too.
no, it was Jack in a Pulpit, or at least that's Again,
Yeah, no,
this was
I've heard that too.
before
Yeah, 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 yeah.
the before any education went into it. It's just say whatever they said it was,
Those
that's what it was.
definitely seem to be obviously it's climactic, but they seem to be part of hardwood forests, eh? Like that because they don't grow out here. And I mean, obviously it's colder here, but is there an association you think with oaks particularly in those pulpits?
I have no idea, and I'll be honest with you, we're in the woods all the time, whether working or recreationally. I probably haven't seen one in over a decade.
Really?
Um, yeah, like I said, I remember being little, and they were all along the little stream that ran through there was called Blue, or is called Blue Run. And yeah, we used to see them all the time, and it's been at least a decade since I've seen one. So I don't know if that's a climate change thing, if that's a
Oh,
overpopulation of deer thing. I really don't know.
right, right. Tony, you got them by your cabin?
Yeah, we get them around. You see those in May apples a lot as
Yeah, May
understory,
apples for sure.
and then you get the mountain laurel, um, and then you'll get some of the native rhododendrons and native dogwoods. Yeah, I think in my experience, they like to be closer to streams, but they like fairly well drained soil. They're not like super wet feet.
Yeah.
They need it, and I think oaks can be similar to that. So you often see oaks, and well, you'll see oaks on the banks where it's better drained, and then down in the hollow, like in the wood, Pennsylvania, you'll see the hemlocks and the jack in the pulpit, and the mayflower and the skunk cabbages, and
Yeah,
all the things that are a little bit more. But I don't see them as often as I used to. But we still see them out. We have a piece of property that's probably probably hour and a half from you, Ryan. So
yeah,
see them in that area along the creek. Unfortunately, now we see Japanese knotweed a lot too, but
yeah.
you can't
That's
have
very,
everything.
very prolific here in Pittsburgh. That and the stiltgrass is just kind of taken everything over, which is a shame. But yeah, I mean, being a kid in the early '80s that literally didn't have a neighbor uh, to speak of. Uh, that's all we did. We were just in the woods constantly. Parents weren't entertaining us. Like, yes, go play.
Yep,
Build
yep.
your forts and go exploring. And yeah, it was awesome. Um, just a wonderful way to grow up and get attached to the
So
outside.
did you climb then as well, like kids do, or?
Yeah, for sure. Um, can't say I was like a real thrill seeker in that regard. Um, just kind of like I said, an odd segue into being where we're at today. I mean, when I started in tree care, I was just ground guy, right? Just grab the branches, move stuff here. You're young and strong, go for it. And my brother was a climber, and for years it was like you could never pay me enough to do that. Like you're nuts, you're out of your mind. There's something wrong with you. And then after being around it and kind of understanding why he was doing what he was doing and how he was doing things and working with other climbers, it just got to the point I was like, okay, I'd like to get home before like 7 o'clock tonight. So apparently I'm going to start doing this. And, one thing turned into another. And the next thing I know, I'm at a tree climbing championship for the first time and is a apprentice. And it was actually at Longwood. And Tony was in my group, and yeah, it kind of tucked me under his wing and showed me the ropes there, and that's when things really started progressing, I would say. Well, that and you know, being fortunate enough to work with Rick Dembo for a while, uh, it went from just being a labor job source of income kind of a thing to there's more to this. There's a lot of thought and expertise that can go into this as opposed to other places I had worked where there wasn't a hard hat to be found and chainsaw chaps didn't even know they existed and all that kind of stuff. So they did the quick math on it here, waiting to get on with you guys, and it's like 28 years since I went to my first day of tree work, and it's like, holy heck, like, where'd the time go?
So you the first company you worked at, you didn't actually climb then. It took a
No, no, not at all. No, and didn't want to. It wasn't until a couple years later, and my brother started his business, and it was kind of the same thing. It was like anybody that they could convince to go up a tree and give it a shot, and you ended up with a lot of fairly incompetent people that it's like, okay, like, and although I don't want to do this, I know I can do it better than how you're handling this now. So yeah, that's kind of
So what
kind
was
of how we got moving.
your first climbing get up, like your first belt and setup, like hitch and so on? Do you remember what the
Oh,
system you learned on?
yeah, learned on it was a Blair ultralight, and it was
Wow.
a
Yeah.
hand me down from my brother.
Yeah.
Uh, rope was it was this 12 strand. Um, and he had gotten into the eye to eye split tail kind of game already, but it was pre micro pulley, so it was
Right.
still just body thrusting and advancing your hitch and body thrust and advance your
Yeah.
hitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got real good at doing that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then it was the Petzl single handed ascenders, and they showed up, and it was like, oh, really? The foot loops and tethers and all this stuff and gear and crap hanging everywhere, but it was still way better. So yeah, that's where it started. But I'm still a moving rope guy today.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's how I like my canopy anchor, and I hate to say to quote Tony, a curmudgeon, but that's how I'm comfortable. That's how my brain's wired to dissect these things and move through them. So yeah, still works really, really well.
Yeah. So
In my
what are you
in my
using for? Do you use a mechanical hitch, or are you on a regular hitch nowadays? Or
Nah, just good old hitch cord.
yeah.
Yeah. What is it? Armor Tech, I believe it is. It's like blue and gray. Buy a bunch of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, work them up. Yeah, it's it's simple. Keep it simple, stupid always seems to work real well. But the climbing stuff has definitely dropped off. We bought a spider lift 2 years ago. Uh, and that's just been a massive, massive game changer. Um, just on the wear and tear, the getting, your up and coming employees who understand the concept of what needs to be done. They understand where to set the rigging. They understand all that good stuff, but getting somebody to get over the mental hurdles of physically doing it and with any kind of efficiency, uh, it's been a big help. Um, you know, I've said it forever. I'm sure you guys know this. How many people come in and they're there for a couple months, like, yeah, I think I'm ready to start climbing. And it's like, okay, sure, you may be, but there's no USB for me to take what I know and just plug it into you. And it's the same thing every time you get somebody 20 feet up in the air and the bear cubbing starts and all that stuff. And it's like, it, working around people that are proficient makes everything look a hell of a lot easier than it is. So, I've been
So
around
you're
and got to
suggesting
learn.
that, like as far as actually doing like productive tree work, let's call it for now,
Yeah,
like you can get there quicker with a lift. I guess the learning curve using the lift is far shorter or less than learning to climb, but not how to actually tie the knots and do the rigging. You you can get more proficient more quickly using a lift and actually do a removal than you could if you had to climb and do all the rest of it.
I I would say that's in what I've seen out of what the machinery does. I'd say that's very accurate, without a doubt.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it's a unique thing of the track lifts too, because we've had bucket trucks, aerial lifts forever, but
right.
they were very purpose designed. They're essentially
Yes.
designed for line clearance, right? Work alongside the road, and yeah,
Yeah.
you back them through people's yards, and the way they articulate, and they're great. And I thought that, and saw the track lift, the smaller lifts come out, like, yeah, whatever. And then we got one, and the fact that I can take a 9,600 pound machine that goes
Yeah.
101 feet in the air through a 32-inch gate, it's a total game changer.
Yeah.
Like I said, the learning curve for, I can teach somebody to tie on a block and basic rigging and deadwooding and pruning fairly quickly. 'Cause, some people come with some experience, but the ability to move your body through 3D space in a tree hanging from a rope is something that takes minimum 4 years to
Yeah.
get, enough experience so that you're not making stupid decisions. I mean,
Yep.
you can get a skill set pretty quickly as a climber, but to be that person that I don't have to watch and worry about all the time is going to take some. Whereas with the lift, it's just different. They can
Yeah.
get up there, they can do it. The maneuvering through 3D space is taken care of.
That's a really cool way of putting it.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
It's mapping that.
right. And
Yeah.
we always had that access with a bucket truck, but the bucket truck was always limited because it doesn't go through 32-inch gates. It just doesn't.
And it's something that, in our topography here in Pittsburgh, I mean, there is no flat ground. Everything is a slope, is a grade, it's hilly. It's not mountainous per se, but yeah, that bucket trucks, they're just not a great fit because half the time you can't take them anywhere. And it seems like every tree we ever get a call to look at or work on, it's in somebody's backyard, up on a hillside, down over the back hill, whatever it is. So the track lifts have definitely uh, they've they've solved a lot of problems. But by the same token, it's like anything else. They're not fail proof. You still got to you're still 60, 70, 80, 90 feet in the air. And because they are so light, that's always the you know kind of the concern with it. Anything mistakenly gets rigged over the boom, yeah, you'll tip it right over. Go ahead and bomb that log and let it roll down the hillside and take out your outrigger. Yeah, you're still falling over. And now you're not tied to anything either. So they solve a lot of problems, but it's always that thought. Oh, well, yeah, you're totally safe now. You're never safe. You got to make yourself safe.
Um, so would you say there's quite a difference then between like it's not just a mini bucket truck that you can drive in a backyard, like it actually offers different access? Would you say that's fair, or is it
Yeah, I would. Yeah, just the way that they move and the telescoping motions of the booms is a lot different. And there's learning curve to that as far as, where to set the darn thing up to get started. Um, yeah, it took a minute, but yeah, gosh, they don't move as fast as a bucket either, right? So that idea that it's just a bucket truck, that they're much slower in the booms going up and down and whatnot. But it goes back to the fact that it does weigh less than 10,000 pounds, but it's still going, like Tony said, 80, 90, 100 feet up. It's inertia. So yeah, especially when you have everything all stretched out and you start bringing that upper boom down, yeah, it's different. But yeah, they're really productive. It's when we first got it, we were essentially, even with the learning curve and figuring out how to use the machine and really trust the machine, we were basically opening up an extra production day a week. And just the stupid little snafus of, you know, the throw line tangled up or just can't, the throw ball gods weren't with you that morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not worrying about that kind of stuff nearly as much. Just drive the machine in, get in the basket, and
The other thing that we found too is like, Ryan, you said like you get somebody, they're with you for 6, 9 months, whatever, like, oh, I'm ready to climb. And then they realize how hard physically demanding it is to climb. And then
yeah,
they try for 3 months and then they leave.
yeah,
The nice part about the lift is like, their pruning's good and their chainsaw skills are good. They can do basic rigging. So now we can get them in the lift and they're more productive member of the crew. And then we can ease them into climbing. Right.
yeah,
Like, so
yeah,
now it's not the end all or be all. So it's they get fairly proficient at the lift, and then they can so now they're slowly coming out of the lift to do, because you can't get a lift to everything. Like you
no,
still have to
absolutely not.
climb it.
We were climbing this morning. Yeah,
But it's been a nice transition for that, for somebody, because we end up, the people that we find that we have the most success with are, they're coming in not a lot of experience. They're definitely, they're not climbers, like, very, or if they're climbers, they're coming from like a rock or an ice background, right? Not necessarily tree work. And like, oh, I can get climb and get paid. And then they, so it's been a nice sort of segue. Some guys never leave the lift, and that's fine, but some like use the lift as sort of that. Now they can do both, right? And it allowed them
yeah,
to kind of stay involved, stay active, realize that, I can do this work. And then just from from my own standpoint, I love climbing trees, but like, by Thursday, I'm
yeah,
tired, man. Like I don't want to climb trees anymore, and it's just
yeah.
the ability to, to keep going at a decent pace. And just the, like, what really kind of pushed us was the emerald ash borer,
Yeah.
because we had a lot of these relatively small ash trees in tight spaces, but you can't climb them. They're just too hazardous to climb. The access was a problem. You couldn't really even rig off of them. So, an insect kind of forced us, to really start to really explore the lift, and then all these other intangibles started to show up.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And
Yeah,
the telescopic feature, right? Like even in cranes, I remember one of the first people that I learned some crane stuff from. They really liked. There was a couple cranes that would telescope. Like this is, it wasn't for, it was for removals, right? But by having a telescope, you can place yourself very, you can just head for it, right? Whereas
yeah,
you got to articulate booms and angles, like to get to that where you need to make your cut is you just go up, okay, and then you shoot yourself right to it, right? And there's
yep,
that's some bucket trucks. Well, there's the odd one. There's some trucks that have a telescoping feature, but it's quite limited. It might be one boom, the upper telescopes a bit, and that's it, right? But
yeah,
uh, telescoping gives you some advantages as far as maneuverability.
yeah, without a doubt. And again, it's the learning curve aspect of it. I mean, you can do a lot with a bucket truck too. You just have to see what's coming, or just like Tony was saying, figuring out the 3 dimensional space, and being able to see it. That's where the efficiency is made up, just like anything else. It's a matter of experience, and experience takes time.
I think it did a lot of us too. Is a lot of our work is big hedges. And while it might
Yeah.
seem ridiculous to do, a 15-foot hedge with a 101-foot lift, but when you have 51 feet of side reach, I can prune the hell out of a hedge, right? And
Yep. You're right
so,
there.
and where that comes from is it's like, nobody on the tree crew really likes hedge work, but
Hmm.
it's part of the property, right? So we work on the hedge, but we also work on the beautiful, white oak in the backyard. So it's allowed us to get that level of precision for even simple, just hedge work,
Yeah.
just keeping long hedges around the pool. That's the reason we get to work on all those other cool trees, is because we can do a really good job on the hedge as well too.
Yeah.
Hedges, 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 hedges. The bane of every arborist.
They're great on those days when it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit with 98% humidity, and you've just done 3 dead ash tree removals, and it's Thursday. Then hedge work is kind of nice.
Yep. Yeah, that's another funny thing I was thinking about earlier today. It's like, for a good, 12, 15 years, other positions that I had at other companies, it was like, I wasn't doing anything but big removals, big oaks, day in, day out, 5 days a week. That was it. I never got to touch a pole clip. I never got to, shape a crabapple tree. I never got to do that stuff. So when we transitioned and I started Kruljac tree, it was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this end of the tree work. And I was like, wow, you know, for,
Well, it's like we were talking about
for
in our last podcast, having some moderation. I think it's, like, removals are great and everyone loves them, but I mean, you if that's all you do, eventually it stops being all that, right? And having that, variety is the spice of life, as they say, and it's good to have and to keep your skills up, right? Like, and it's easier on the body, like, so some days
oh yeah,
I think it's good to mix those things up, and it also gets the whole crew working together. You otherwise you end up with quite a silo effect. You got the guys that do the big removals and they never talk. They're somehow elitist, right? We don't do any of that small crab, bunch of apple pruning, hedge trimming wussies. What are you guys up to? I don't do that stuff. But it's just something different.
yep, without a doubt, yeah, keeping it mixed up, keeping it changed up, and I'm starting to learn the lessons of the wear and tear stuff, um, between sports, uh, wrestling forever, just all the right, thrill seeker for sure, racing bicycles, racing motorcycles, all that kind of good stuff. But like, it's already catching up, and it's like, yeah, boy, that lift is really nice, isn't it? You find yourself able to do like the good exercise, if you will, because you actually have the energy to do it. At the end of the day, you don't want to eat dinner at 5 and be asleep at 6. Especially in the summer when it's just like Tony said, in Pittsburgh, it's either hot and humid or cold, just good and cold. Not as cold as up there, but we had this year. I was sending Tony some pictures, and it was -11 when we were
Ooh.
leaving the house, and it was like, what am I doing? But you go do it. Just bundle up. You'll be fine.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. The day, well, it's not too bad.
No. Yeah, again, we're still south.
They're -11.
Yeah.
Well, -11 Fahrenheit
Yeah, I
is
know. That's
probably 28, 20,
yeah,
it looked
that's
like 22, 23 below Celsius.
yeah, that's pretty cold.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
Well, I can remember, when being a young guy and with my dad in the industry, like, and, the old cronies would come over and hang out with him. Like, the guys would be like, oh, I now understand what they meant by being high mileage, right? Um, I've been fortunate with my career. I've avoided major injury, but there's not as much tread left on the tires now in my 50s as there was when I
Mm-hmm.
was, and I'm fine. It's just, still healthy, still in good shape. But it's like, it just takes longer to recover. I can't, for me, when I don't climb as often as I used to now at all, but for me to go out and do like 2 days of climbing straight, like I need 4 days off to recover.
Well, I'm not there, but
Right.
yeah. But
You will
I know
be.
what you mean. Well, in the other, like I enjoy it. I enjoy climbing
Right.
more now that we have a lift. Right?
Hmm.
It's not like oh, here we go again, here we go again. And at least where we have the oak wilt is really prolific, like right in our area. So the majority of the work that we're doing in the winter, right, from November through March, is oak prunings, right? Because that's the only time of the year that we have to do it, and we have oak trees everywhere. So, yeah, yeah, being on rope and saddle, especially when it's horribly cold out or the trees are snow covered, yeah, it gets old. It's a lot nicer to throw on your heated vest and hop in the basket and go cut some dead sticks. Yeah, but it works out well.
Um, just to maybe shift a little bit the gears, not along the same vein, like you mentioned, of your extracurricular activities involve the outdoors and trees and woods and forests as well, and
Yeah.
machinery. Have you, you're not brand new in the industry, and you're not as old as Tony, as you say, but um, not as worn out as Tony. but have you ever, or have you started to consider the life lessons that you may have acquired by being involved in trees and tree care, and or drawing parallels from tree work or trees themselves into your own personal experience, like whether it be in the woods or on jobs?
Huh. Um, that's interesting. I don't know that I've ever really thought of it maybe that way. Um, but yeah, I mean, anymore, always err on the side of caution. The wife and I really avid off-road motorcycle riders, and we're getting a couple of trips planned for this year. We're gonna cross Panama from the beach on the Caribbean side and ride the whole way over the country up over the mountains and end up on the beach on the Pacific side. And we're going with a more local group in September to Colorado. And it's just having a conversation with those guys, and they were concerned about a couple sections on one particular portion of trail, and you know, it's like, yeah, well, I just as there is not a tree worth getting, a paper cut over, yeah, let's always err on that side of caution. Yeah, especially when you're out in the elements. Yesterday we did 42 miles just right out of the house here. But there's times, yeah. I mean, if something truly bad was to happen or there was an injury, going to be pretty tough to get anybody to you to get you out of the woods. So yeah, I think that aspect of it, and more so since I was fortunate enough to do train the trainer with you,
Hmm.
that that kind of stuff is just kind of burned into my head a lot more these days. And without a doubt, the older I get, it's just making sure that everybody gets home in one piece and without injury and whatnot. I think that just I can't get away from that.
From a safety kind of standpoint.
Yeah, that it's the risk reward thing. Yes, do I love you know cruising through the woods and dodging trees and going over logs and all that kind of stuff, but there is a line that you know nobody's paying me to do this, right? It's not like it's not getting a paycheck out of this. So yeah, you just dial it back and make sure you can you know keep yourself in one piece so you can go enjoy it again and continue to have fun with it and have the memories and have the experiences.
Well, and as far as that goes, like um, the memories and experiences are like that come from being in nature, being having a career in it's not the normal office environment, right?
Oh gosh,
Like
no.
how is that? do you feel that's had an impact on you, or like your psyche or your spirituality or whatever, like as a person, and in your relationships? Like, is that, do you draw parallels from that?
Yeah, um, for sure. I think a lot of that mindset even goes back, further. There's, the attitude of, can it be done? Can I do it? That was a wrestling thing. That was a my dad thing. Um, he was a Vietnam vet. Um, Grew up without running water in Lawrenceville. Right, pretty came from really humble beginnings, but yeah, there was never anything that he shied away from a work standpoint. Can we do it? Can we figure it out? Kind of a thing. Yeah, and I think that carries over into life, into relationships. Yeah, without a doubt. What we choose to wake up and do on a daily basis is something that 90% of the population I don't think could really fathom. It's tree work is not for most people. That's kind of how I like to say it. Um, or at least on the production end of things. Yeah,
Right.
it's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
if you understand that and you committed yourself to it, then yeah, it can absolutely be done.
But how do you think that translates into how you are as an individual? Like what is, I mean, it obviously says something about your willingness to have resolve and dedicate to a difficult task and accomplish it. But like do you think that brings something to you or changes a person, or like you said, some people just won't do it or can't do it. Like what is it that it does, do you think? Like, because I understand what you're saying. I just, maybe people listening to how, yeah, I don't know. It's I've always, and I'm asking out of curiosity because I'm always interested in how people view that. Like, what is it that has kept you in it this long? And you obviously must like it. I mean, you obviously make money at it too. But like, I mean, I don't know if there's an arborist out there that knows they probably couldn't have probably found some type of career that may have paid as good without as hard.
Yeah, for sure. I think that just goes. Yeah, I mean, I was supposed to be a elementary or high school art teacher. That's what I went to college for and postgraduate studies and all that good stuff. I got my teacher certification. For me, though, it was just being inside, right? And being under the fluorescent lights. And then after managing grown men for years already, and then walking into a classroom with a whole bunch of kids that, you know, didn't really want to be there, I was like, wow, this is not for me. Like, I need to get back outside and see. I think the thing I love about tree work is that, at the end of the day or an end of a project, you can actually see what you did, right? You can
Right.
see what you accomplished.
Yeah.
Started with this, now we're at this, and now that's done. And there's closure there.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, myself, I need to see that. You know, my wife, God bless her, right? She's corporate America, and it just doesn't seem like anything ever ends. It just kind of goes on and on and on and on. And she's like, God, I need to get outside and like go for a walk and get some fresh air. And it's like, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
already got that in for the day. Yeah, yeah. You did something, and I think maybe that's part of the psyche thing. Maybe pre-programmed, or it goes back to being a kid and how I grew up and growing up in the woods, and that's just what you did. But like, you got to move and you got to think, and tree
Well,
work puts those two things together pretty nicely.
I don't. It's interesting because even anyone that does work in the box or wherever, like corporate, classic, you know, the office type job, like under the lights, behind a screen, in front of a keyboard, at a desk,
Yep.
what even selling cars, selling electronics, whatever it is, almost everyone in there associates recreation with an outdoor thing. Like it's
Right.
either a park, or you surf, you ski, you hike, you walk your dog, you, I don't know what else to compare it, but it's interesting. Like it's fundamentally, as people, we yearn or find that experience at some
Oh yeah.
point. right? Like everybody does, I think. I mean, I know, like, I mean, I guess there's people that maybe like, I know I'm done work, I'm going to go to the mall, and I'm going to go inside and hang out. Like, and there's probably a few people that, but I don't know, even them, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, is that not the human condition craves that outdoor experience at some point?
I think
We
it
do it for a
has to be.
living.
Yeah, without a doubt. But it doesn't mean that we don't keep doing it even afterwards. I mean, there's just
Right.
something. You know, look at every major city, right? They have their parks and they have their green spaces. It's definitely been a part of the human condition for
Yeah.
a very long time. We just kind of get to work in it and enjoy it, and then still, though, yeah, I nature, right? It's inherent. You know, it's going on vacation. I'm not going to New York City. Not that there's anything wrong with New York City, but no, I'm going on vacation and trying to get a breather. No, I want to be somewhere where there's some beautiful nature and some quiet, and you know, I think that's everybody. There's something
I think
healing
so.
about being outside.
What do you think, Tony? Like, is that like just is it a human nature to seek nature?
Yeah, I think so. But I think there's some people that gravitate towards fields that are outside, like the green industry, landscaping, tree work that need it more than others. I just couldn't imagine for myself having a career where I went into a factory or an office, and I just don't think I would function well in that situation. And I've got good friends that do that, and they've done it, and it's not a bad thing. I just don't think it would work well for me. Um, I think one of the draws for tree work for me was it was the perfect mix between working by yourself, but also being part of a team,
Mm.
right? Because while I was in the tree climbing, generally, even if I was a big tree and Ryan's climbing with me or something, we're still kind of individual units working as, individuals. But yet you're still a whole part of the team because, I can make any climber look bad in a tree if I'm on the ground, right? I'm pretty good at it actually. Um, so and it's like, get some of the most satisfying jobs were the ones where like everybody's working and you hit the ground and the brush is almost cleaned up and everybody's happy. And so for me, it was that perfect mix of being outside, right? Working very hard physically. At that point, when I was doing the bulk of my tree work, I really just love to work hard. I like the physical challenge of it. I like to be physically tired at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
then I'm still an independent because, I'm not going to work to socialize. So I work well by myself. I'm pretty self-directed, but I'm also like to be part of a team. Um, so it was sort of all of it coming together. And then, well, I've said many times in this podcast, I've stuck with tree work so long because of the sense of community that it's given me. And it's a sense of community of working on a crew, being part of a company, for me being part of a family company, helping my brother and the rest of my family succeed at what they want to do. And then the broader community of arborists, and then, as we talked about with the tree climbing competition. So it served all those for me. It fit that. And the outside portion of it, I think, is vital. There are certain people that need that more than others. And I think it draws like minds, birds of a feather, right?
Yep, without a doubt. I would completely subscribe to that. I need to be moving. I need to be outside, and yeah, the challenge of it. No two trees are the same. Now, granted, if you have a row of dead spruce trees, sure, they're all pretty much the same. But it's every day, new project, new challenge, and it gets your brain working, and that's where the gratification comes from. It's like, yeah, wow, that went absolutely according to plan. It was smooth. It was seamless. Everybody's happy. The crew's happy. It's like great. You just feel good about yourself at the end of that you know, when it's a success. And I think the other thing is once you kind of get a taste of that, you want to keep that ball rolling. You want to keep, throwing strikes and making it smooth and making it better and making it more efficient and safer and keep, the team happy. Because I think that's one of the biggest challenges moving forward for the industry is just, where we're at generationally. Like, heard a guy on a podcast the other day talking about Generation Z coming up and how their dream job is to code in a closet that locks from the inside, so that they really never have to see anybody or talk to them. Uh, yeah, I think that's a real kind of a thing. At some point, that generation, we didn't. I didn't grow up with cell phones and tablets and all the information right at your fingertips. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that evolves and kind of the labor force. I think there's a lot more good information out there, but I'm curious how that'll really play out as far as, you know, not to use a military term, but boots on the ground when it's actually time to do the stuff, not just watch it be done. How is that? How's that going to translate?
Yeah, I think it.
Um,
Yeah, I think it is going to be interesting. Like because there seems to be this shortage of workers, but there's not a shortage of people. So there's something's not connecting, right? And people, and I don't know if it's specifically Gen Z or what, but like the type of, and it's not just tree work,
well,
anything that involves having to sweat and face the elements, whether it be sun, rain, wind, it seems like it's not attractive or it's not cool or something, and the other thing that there seems to be a lot of right now is I mean, it's always was there. There was always the get rich quick schemes that are never
mhm.
ending, but they seem to be more plausible now than ever before. Like it's like there is like I find myself thinking there must be a way on the internet that I could make more money quickly just in retirement, And then if you look easy enough, but I still think it's mostly snake oil. I don't know, but there seems to be a lot of that belief around, right? Like using your phone to make money or and the phone itself. I mean, it's everything. Like it's
Yeah,
freaking everything.
yeah,
And I say that kind of with disdain, but yet it's true. And I'm as guilty of it. Like I got it right here. Like we really don't really go anywhere much. Like I bank on it. I often do the podcast on it. I do all my photography with it. I just bought a attachment lens so I can have a filter on it. Like it's, and it was funny. We were doing, I can't remember what we were up to, but I went to the electronics store and I said, I want the best camera that I can upload with, that I could do up. It was had to do when we wanted to do testing during COVID. So we could have something that could upload while like live time. That wasn't like you had to hook up your video camera with a cable, like, or is there something that just connects wireless and all this? And the guy's looking at me like, yeah, it's called a phone, man.
he was like, yeah, you're holding it.
And I was like, what? And he said, well, maybe not that one, but he said the new Apple, the new S is like, he said they literally, I'm checking the specs on these things and they got just as high a pixel count, just as high a
Yeah,
quality. They got
yeah,
all
it's
these
made like
features. I'm like, what the hell? Like,
it's made your big bulky Canon camera kind of obsolete.
and
Yeah,
it's, and they're good raw megapixel pictures. You can blow them up. They're high image quality, resolution, everything else. And the
yeah,
audio, the video, the cameras. It's just like, okay, so what else is this thing going to do next? Like, is it going to cut my hair or what? Like, you know,
yeah, right.
you order your food with it in the cities. Like we don't have, I don't know. You know what? That's like, we live in the country, and I think that actually Skip would come out here, or these food delivery places that restaurants would never do it and pizza places wouldn't, but I bet you these delivery places would now.
Yeah,
Like these services,
yeah,
Anyways, getting on, but I don't know, I got on that rabbit hole. But the point is that I don't even know what it would have been like growing up having all this at your disposal, and even seeing it as such a normal part of life. Like their parents,
exactly.
everybody functions on this. Um, and even what I also freaks me out, and I'll try to shut up now after this, is the disconnection with actual money.
Yeah,
Like it's just all it is a bleep, and you get it, it's deposited from there because you did this, and then now you want this, and you take it out of there. There's no tangible
Material.
cash is just
Yep.
almost gone. I
Yeah.
don't know. Are you guys finding that?
Oh
Hmm.
yeah.
No, without a doubt.
Sometimes for amusement, I like to go and buy something with cash just to watch them struggle to count change.
Yeah,
Like
I
they're
do
like
not.
trying
Yeah.
to figure this out. It's like, it's pretty simple. The way I learned is like, you buy something for if you buy something for $2.85 and they hand you a $5 bill, you figure out 15 cents and then count dollars on top of that. It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. That's what makes me a curmudgeon. But I do that for entertainment often. Yeah, I like sometimes usually when I'm spending cash, it's just for entertainment value.
Yep.
But
It
there's
is. It's
places
fun.
now that say, "What's that?" I'm sorry, we don't take that. It's like, what do you mean?
It's a
We
guess
don't
you do.
do cash.
It
We
says it
just have
right
this
here.
little box. You just slide on here. It's like, oh, I don't have a card. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't go to those places.
Yep. Me neither.
But I mean, that
But yeah,
happens at
that's.
farmers markets now, man. Like
But you got to use your card at the farmers market.
some of them, yeah, they have those.
Oh, come
There's like those
on.
little white. What are they called? Like they're little white. They hook on a phone. You
Yeah.
stick it in your phone, and you have an
I'm
account,
sorry.
and and you just take their card, you scan it, and it does a transaction wireless, and they just don't bother because then the guy doesn't have to carry any change. Like you just I mean, I get it,
Yeah.
but it's like, wow, man, like this is like cash, the whole cash thing. It's weird. Anyways,
Yeah.
but
I
I mean,
still like to
it's
myself.
part to me. It's connected with this whole Gen Z thing.
Yeah. It's just the whole technological revolution. But getting back to what you mentioned earlier, there's as many people. That I don't think that's necessarily true. I think globally more so than in North America, um, populations have been shrinking, right? Because as people industrialize, as nobody's on the farm, they're not having a bunch of kids for free labor. I mean, Canada's been bringing in like 15% of their population through immigration for a while now
Yeah,
to sustain what's going on. So that definitely plays into things as well, though,
yeah, yeah.
because then it was, the generations before, well, I want my kids to do better. We worked in the factories, we worked in X, Y, and Z or in this construction, and now we have all these. There's nothing wrong with it. There's just a lot more people that would rather be a white collar
Right.
worker, because the option
Well, that's
is
what I
there.
mean.
Not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, and
Right.
for the country or for any country's economic model, I don't know that that's the best thing either. But I think that's kind of been the trend.
Well, yeah, and I
Um,
don't think there's less people. It's just less people want to do, for lack of a better word, the blue collar job, so to speak. Like they just don't apply, right? They don't.
yeah,
It's not. I,
not on the
I don't know
radar.
if it's not cool or what, but it's not. You're not popular. It's not. I don't know. Like that. Like, what is the reason? Is it too hard? I mean, I think that's maybe sometimes, but it's almost like it's not even. It's not in, to
Yeah,
be a plumber or to be an electrician or to be an arborist or to, it's just not an in thing. You want to be you know, I don't know, a podcast trader or, like,
Mm.
an influencer making money off of hits on your page that you develop or whatever, right? Like, I know, I
yeah.
sounded like a total old fart here. This is terrible. People need to stop listening.
I
But you
think
know
we're
what I
in.
mean?
But I
Like
think
that.
the shame is we need people, and it's not just the tree care industry; it's
No, I know.
every industry.
I know.
The U.S. is trying to do
But
this
that's what
massive
I'm curious
industrial
about.
build
Like,
out.
how did it happen? Like, here we are, all three of us could never do the office thing. Like, and
Mm-mm.
it wasn't even a question. It was, and yet now we've got, the next generation going, could never do the tree thing, could never do
Yeah,
and it's like, how did we get to this, like, like this switcheroo? It's like a reverso. Is that
Yeah,
normal? Is that just a fluctuation of society and civilization? There's a philosophical question for you, Tony.
I think with tree work, some of it is it's not there's not a lot of exposure to like kids in high school to tree work.
that's very true.
So I think a lot of the personality types of the people that would get involved in tree work end up getting involved in some other aspect of the green industry or service industry, because they just don't know tree work's an option, right? Like they just don't like it's not there. It's not so much in Canada because it's seen, and not definitely not as much as in Europe and like Australia and New Zealand where it's seen as a trade. Um, so I think arboriculture as a field misses people because of that, right? Like people that were, like power linemen. There's like when you look at like power linemen here in the States, it's a trade. There's schools you can go to become a power lineman, and then when you get out, they'll all but guarantee you a job, and it's a nice paying job, right? And
Yes,
it
sure
has
is.
all the like power linemen and tree people are cut. Production tree people cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're in their shop and you close your eyes, it's the same conversation, right? It's and Dwayne, you and I've been enough of those shops,
Yeah.
doing training. So I think when arboriculture has much more of a structure, like using power linemen for an example, then I think that there'll be a bigger influx. You're still gonna. I think it's a lot comes down to politics too, right? Like it's like politics in that 200 years ago in Pennsylvania, politics hasn't changed in 200 years. We're just bitching about different things, right? It's so there's just so I think some of it's that aspect too. It's you get that recency bias, right? It seems like it's only ever been our problem, but it's been a problem for a long time. And I think some of it's just initial exposure, right? Like there's just, and that's changing here in the States. It's definitely different in Canada. It's changing for all the industries, right? Because HVAC and all the industries that can't be replaced by a robot. It's going to have to change, and I think it will. I think that people will want to do the job.
But don't aren't I'm my understanding is even power linemen. There not as many people are getting into that, even though it's recognized. Like even they struggle with like you won't get Gen Zs lining up to go sign up to be a lineman. They
You will
rather
when their
do something
phones don't
else.
charge.
Yeah,
You
well,
will when their phones don't charge.
I don't think
right?
they don't. I think they realize it's a need. But
Right.
even nursing is another example where you're seeing more and
Oh my
more.
God.
Like
Yeah.
they're like nurses are just like the average age of the nurse has gone up like 20 years, and either they can't afford to retire or they're just. My understanding is they're just not new ones coming in.
Yeah.
Right.
It's another one of those jobs that I don't know. It's obviously not like tree, but I mean, you got to get dirty, right? Like, I think every nurse has to, they spend some time at the end of a bedpan, and I would imagine, right? Like, it's just there's aspects to it that are rather, it's dirty work, so to speak,
Yeah.
at
It's like
times, right?
Mike Rose, Dirty Jobs, right? Love that show. And he says the same thing all the time. It's like we really need some people to start doing some of this stuff that might be a little unsightly, but boy, it pays really well, and you did something at the end of the day, and the world kind of needs it to keep spinning.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
see how it shakes.
it can't last, that's for sure, and something will, it'll come around full circle, and there's probably some expert out there that would be able to explain it in a nice, neat way, philosophically and intellectually and scientifically why and how it's happening, I suppose. But I also think we've faced such a magnificent change in technology, like in the last. It's just, I guess, basic with the internet, right? Like you think about our generation seeing cell phones start from the mobile phone to what it is today, like that, and the internet coinciding with that, like it's unbelievable, really, what we have access to, and this platform, well, like Joe Rogan's podcast, the most listened to thing in the world, right?
Yeah, right.
Of anything, out any movie, show, television, it's by far more listened to. It's that blows my mind.
Yeah, and more so than the legacy media, and more so than
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
anything.
I
And
know.
I think that's a positive thing in a lot of ways.
I do too, and
But
I think it's also why we're at like it's the same. It's tied in with this whole thing we're talking about with Gen Z. Like there's like
Mhm.
because they're obviously listening to it, right? Like
oh yeah,
it's not just old buggers like us that are making Joe Rogan popular. In fact, but like he's got just the range, right? The scope. You know, like podcast killed the radio star, the TV star. Right? It used to be radio killed the the video
yeah,
star.
video
Well,
killed the radio star.
podcast killed the video star.
Yeah. Yeah, but and I don't know, does it go back to the educational system at some point that like kids aren't learning the gratification of actually using their hands to create something or manipulate something that, the only way you're manipulating things or creating things is through a digital media, right?
Right.
Or through a digital means to that end. Like, and that's something, again, I love working with my hands, but maybe I wouldn't if I hadn't kind of been forced and educated in that way when I was
Right.
young
Yeah.
to find the pleasure in doing something like that. Um, there's definitely some
Yeah, that's a good point. And then that
educational and generational differences. I mean, I don't. Do they still teach wood shop? Do they still have shop class? Like, I don't know that that stuff even exists anymore. Um, I, I really don't.
I think there is, but even there, it's kind of vocational, and then almost like it's if you can't hack real school, you do that.
Right, exactly, and it kind of gets that stigma to it.
Yeah.
Yep, without a doubt. But yeah, it's. I mean, I love making stuff with my hands. I love working with my hands. I love
And
wrenching on the bikes.
that's an interesting point. I never thought of that. Like you make things with your fingers now on a keyboard and a
Yeah,
mouse, right? Like
yeah,
and even digital printing, right? Like you don't make it, you scan it and it builds it, right?
right.
Like even like wow, that's interesting. Like
Yeah, it's just that whole kind of, again, probably not the right word to use, but that really primitive human aspect of, take raw material, take meat hooks, and manipulate and end up with finished product that like
yeah.
it is that is worthwhile when you get gratification out of that. You're like, look, I accomplished something. With just my hands. I didn't have to rely on the super robot computer thing to actually make it happen.
You mean AI?
Nah, just even your cell phone or just the scanner like you're talking about.
Mhm.
You know?
I tend to
So,
think it'll come back around again because if you remember before the advent of the modern cell phone, like a status symbol was how well you were connected. Now that we're also connected, a status symbol is how you can like not be connected or how you can have private
Almost.
time. So I tend
You're
to
right.
think it'll start to come back around, right? Like what's old will be new again, and what's new will be old. So
Yeah, it's
I'm
another
being
interesting.
optimistic in that standpoint, right?
That is an interesting.
Now privacy is the new status symbol, right?
oh, without a doubt.
20, when I was in high school, connectivity was the status symbol. Like, having the big car phone that was like this huge thing was like, I was the shit, right?
Yeah.
I always wanted to make an answering machine. Hello, this is my home answering machine, but I am currently out of the house. So call my car phone answering machine.
Yeah. Yeah. And now it's like you're cool if you can be out on your own and no one can get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Now
Like
privacy is the new
you're
status symbol,
successful if you
right?
can do that because you never have to answer your cell phone, but you got it, but you don't have to answer it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That you can unplug, right?
Yeah.
I made it. I really don't need that call. I really don't need
Exactly.
the,
Exactly.
yeah.
Right.
And that's, yeah. I think everybody in the world feels that way right now because we have them and, you can't live without it. I'd love to freaking pitch the thing in the river. Like, but what are you going to do? It's my
I think
lifeline.
it's really you. You can use it as a tool for what it is, and I have to. I use mine as a camera probably more than anything else, it's a hobby and I enjoy it. And I don't have I it just happens to be on the same device, right? And whenever I go out, I normally like if I whenever I go walk the dog or I go snowshoeing or I just put it in flight mode because I want to take pictures and I know if I turn it on and take a photo and there's something popped up that someone texted me or something, I'm immediately going to hit it. And now it's like 10 minutes later, I've made a reply, I've interacted, and I've totally gapped on what I was even going to take a picture of or something, right? So I flight mode it. Now it's a camera. You know?
Yep. Well,
Right.
that's, but the wife and I say this all the time. That's what we love uh, about riding and being on the bikes is,
Right.
you
No,
can't think about anything else.
no.
You can
I
only
love
focus
that ride
on
for sure. I ride motorcycles, not as much off road, but the motorcycle they still haven't really figured. Like you can listen and you can have your phone mounted on your handlebars and you can see, but you can't really let go to do anything, and you can't unless you can
no.
use your tongue or winking to create commands. Like you're pretty much committed to the handlebars, right? Yeah, you
Yeah,
got cruise
oh,
control
without a doubt.
sometimes, and then you got a little bit of time and effort, but it's not like in a car, right? And yeah, and it's
No,
just
it's like
ready to
a
just check out.
yeah, it is. It's a total checkout. And again, you can't think about the bearing that is it going to show up tomorrow so I can put the stump grind. You can't think about any of that.
Yeah,
You can only think about staying on that little ribbon and not
yeah,
smacking off trees.
yeah, yeah,
Great. Like clear
yeah.
the mind.
It's
Yeah,
the
it's a
best. You know, I motorcycle. One of my cousins, avid motorcyclist, and he. I never thought of it this way, but what he loves about riding, he said, it's the one thing you can do where you feel like you're flying.
yeah, sure.
Like you have the sensation of flight because if you're just focused, because you know there's not that much in front of you, right? Like you got your gauges and stuff, but like you can it, you're kind of flying. I never thought of it before, but now I think of it often when I'm riding, and it's like you have this sort of sensation of flight, like
There's
Superman.
a there's a kinesthetic aspect to being on a motorcycle and balancing that I think that occupies a part of your brain that because I can't listen to podcasts when I'm on a motorcycle.
Nope. I
Either
couldn't listen to anything.
I'm not a good motorcycle rider or I'm not a good listener. One of the two happens.
Right?
And I equate it to it's like for sometimes when I really have to concentrate, when I have to sit down in front of a computer or like do something creative, really have to concentrate, I'll roll my chair out of the way and I got a big exercise ball
Yeah,
and I'll just sit on the ball and it's comfortable enough. But there's something about the fact that I have to kind of balance myself that basically shuts down sort of the outside part of your brain and allows me to kind of focus. And I think motorcycles are the same. I think that's why a lot of people that ride because that kinesthetic awareness you have to have takes up just enough of the brain to turn it's like a sound limiter. It turns the static back and you can't hear it and it
yeah,
allows you to kind of to concentrate. Some of my best ideas have come to me riding a motorcycle. That's why like I'll use a Bluetooth headset mostly just because I like to take voice memos because I'll think of something cool, but you can't stop and write it down. So I just take a quick voice memo
That's a great idea.
and go on from there. But I've taken phone calls on a motorcycle when you have to, but it's like, well, I don't like phone conversations in general. But like it's usually pretty quick. Like you just can't concentrate. I'm either not present for the call or I'm not present for the driving
well,
or
and,
steering a
and
motorcycle.
it's often hard to hear and hard to talk, and it's noisy and it's windy, and it's like it's not like you're in the open air, right? It's
Yeah.
going 60 miles an hour. It's hard to even with you got the mic right there, and there's noise and shit, right? And I like having an open face a lot of times anyway. Then it's forget it.
Very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Well, it's been a good chat. Like we've covered a few different topics. I was at around half an hour. We started probing a little bit into a little different realm, and all of a sudden I noticed we're at kind of the witching hour where we get just past that hour point where we kind of often make a natural segue into our goodbye. But the last half hour has really flown by. It's been
yeah.
interesting. I don't even know what we all talked about. I'm just trying to review in my mind.
Talk about where it's starting and where it's going.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
It's we've had it the whole generation. I think has come up a few times in other sessions, and other podcasts, but this was good.
I guess the other question is, what where's it going? Is it, is everybody going to stay busy? Is the demand for tree care going to stay as high as it has for, the past 20 years? That's something I'm kind of curious about. Is it going to stay where it is or tough economic times and tough this times or tough that times? Is that at some point really gonna take a bite.
Always reasoned you need three things for a successful tree company. You need trees, money, and people. And I think as those three things migrate around, the market will change a little bit. And I think it's still I think the days of the 70s and 80s are gone, where you can just employ it, where you can just go to the bar to get your crew for that day, and because I think that there's just too like the skill set's getting higher.
Yeah.
But I think that and I think you always have the big companies going, and you'll have the middle, but I think the market will be there for the smaller end that want to do it, and I think you're gonna have to rethink it a little bit. I think what a lot of people start a tree business because they love tree work, not because they love business. So I think it's what I always recommend people ask if they ask me. It's like not that I've owned a business, but have been real close with my brother and my sister-in-law running one. Is like you need to have an exit plan. Like, what are you gonna like? You're gonna put 30 years into this and build this business. How are you gonna get out of it, right? And get some return on that investment in that 30 years. And I don't think a lot of people think about that very much, but and I think there's be some creative solutions for that from the from the financial market. And like I said, is it going to change? Sure, but I don't think it's going to be as dramatic. The skill set will still be in demand. There'll still be a market for tree work.
Yeah, I think any of the skills, things like, where they're always, as long as there's computers, there's going to be electricians. As long as there's people, there's going to be plumbing. And as long as, and heating, and as long as there's parks and people, as long as there's people, there's going to be parks and yards. And, I don't know that we're ever at a stage of, where everyone's going to have a cubicle. And, I guess even if it got to that stage, we had a common area where everyone eats and everyone goes to this, this drawer to sleep, but there still would be outdoors. Like when I was in Hong Kong, a lot of people don't have kitchens. They have a very small space where they live, but they eat, and everything they do is out in the parks and outside. They basically go there to shower and, you know,
Sleep.
go to the bathroom, shower, and sleep. And that's they don't do a lot of all else. There's actually you can rent a room that has no kitchen. You know, and there's all
What
these
were you
outdoor
doing in Hong Kong?
markets. They just eat out. They just eat it, and it's affordable, right? So you don't have to have a fridge. You don't have to have a stove. You don't have to have. It seemed I was blown away. But
Wow. What took you over there?
tree appraisal.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
that
super
was
interesting.
that was pretty wild because nobody owns damn trees. That's how it all like came about. Like most people don't own a yard. They don't have yards. Like
Yeah, right.
90% of 95%. They live in apartments, right? Like they don't have yards, but they have massive, massive parks, always full. Like people are outside all the time, but they're not in their apartment that much. They're
So
out.
you were appraising the trees in the park, or
Yeah, which are
appraising?
which are all the countries, their government,
Yeah.
right? The
Wow.
the Communist Party of China.
Yeah. CC.
It's their tree, right? And it was in they had a real hard time. Like the valuation process didn't really work because it's based on the largest replacement tree and the whole having a tree economy, like having a retail, like who goes and buys a tree in Hong Kong?
Yeah. Right.
But they do, but it's again now it's on a contract to replace something in a park. There is some private yards, don't get me wrong, but they are like very much in an elitist category, right? It's not
Yeah.
you
Very
wouldn't
few
you
and far
wouldn't be
between.
there's not a lot of tree services in Hong Kong.
Right. Yeah.
But there's tree work getting done, and there is, but it's interesting. So yeah,
Wow.
and they live quite organized and happily, and it's fascinating to me. It was the subway system and the way people moved and the lineups at the queue between stations was very organized and like neat orderly lines, respectful. An old person walks on the train, and anyone that can clearly see they're younger gets up immediately and offers the seat, like
Wow.
without any
prompting.
No, it's
Yeah.
just normal. Like that's what you do. It was quite interesting. Quite interesting.
Hmm.
If you'd
A
ever
lot of
been, it
people.
was. I would have never have ever suggested it, but having gone now, it's an experience. It's worth an experience for sure.
Nice. Right.
It's and the parks are pretty cool, and they love their trees. The tree value is what they really struggle with. Is it wasn't enough. It's like how can it only be that? Like it's worth far more than that. And they attached, like I suggested that, they have moved forward with. I said you really can't use North American traditional tree appraisal practices. You guys need to develop something different.
Wow. You still working on that?
No, they're working on it. I just I was fortunate enough to get in a situation where we had some take our course here online and brought us over there. I don't and I they're going to move far beyond the plant appraisal guide quite quickly. And there's a good group, and most of them are in government, right? So they have means and time, and I haven't seen exactly
Resources.
where they're going with it, but it's quite fascinating.
Wow. That's super interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what's next? What's next for you guys? Tony, what do you got coming up?
Oh, I don't know. Speaking at the Ontario ISA conference here, which for people listening, it's early February now, so that'll be mid-February. Other than that, my Longwood class kicks up. The usual stuff. All good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm just going to. I'll be at the show there with Tony, with my son, and not much else. Just monitoring. I'm trying to learn to work on, not in. As much on the business, not in the business.
It's,
A little bit, but I'm just doing more stuff like that, like this podcast, and volunteering my time to help others. And Mark Chisholm mentioned it to me. We was up here, and he said, he gets some of his most rewarding times is when he's just giving of his time helping someone else. Just for free. There's something about it, and I have to agree. Like there's something about service or helping people, in whatever capacity. Like it can come in any form, but doing something just for the sake of helping someone without compensation. Like it's not the only reward is you're helping them.
yep.
It's not I'll do this to get this. You're just doing it because they need it. It's interesting. And I'm at a place where I can afford to do that, I guess. But it's and a lot of it is involving recovery, helping people with recovery, right? So it's interesting, and how rewarding it is, and how much it helps a person in their own right by helping others. Helping others helps you.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Whether it's family, friends, whatever it is. It's been,
Which one of the reasons, the impetus for the name of the podcast, the human force, like trees do it all the time.
yeah, right.
They're always interacting, right? Not just with each other, but the whole environment.
You should come down for the Tony Day of tree service at the cabin.
Oh,
Right.
Getting
yeah.
that on the books for the spring. Come down and help.
Yeah, I got to get the trees pruned at my cabin out there. So I'm like, Ryan will come down. And we're just gonna turn this into a fun fest because it's all fun.
Well, man, maybe that might be. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
Might get
Good
a few
excuse
people
to.
from. You could have like another Samara Fest or something.
Maybe
You be
something like
careful.
that.
All of a sudden, like 50 people show up.
That's fine. I got a lot of trees.
Yep. Looking forward to it. I'm getting
Well,
everybody
if
together.
you don't cut this out of the podcast, you might just be people will be asking where do we go?
All right. Yeah. Yeah, it's like there are plenty of places they can just sleep in the yard. It's all good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well,
Been
thanks,
good
Ryan,
chatting
for
with you.
sharing your time with us and
My pleasure, guys.
your brain. And yeah, it's fun. we're in our third season and we're still doing it, so we must be liking it.
Yeah, man. Without a doubt. My guys were all teasing me today at work. They're like, "Oh man, boy, I hope you don't go on there and sound like an idiot." I'm like, "Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for the vote of confidence."
It is funny how people get paranoid and self-conscious about coming on. And then maybe the first time I was on one, I did the same thing, but it's mostly harmless.
No, it was a wonderful experience, and again, it's a privilege and an honor. And thank you guys for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for being here. Thanks for being here.